Hello, my name is Maria Fernanda, and I'm the host of IOScholarships Superheroes podcast.
Easy, easy, so easy.
This podcast is only a 10-minute podcast that highlights the best kept secret of IO scholars, job recruiters, and community influencers. And most importantly, we want to provide you financial resources to go to college debt free and become financially savvy. Well, welcome back, Gabriela. And we are closing Hispanic Heritage Month with a very interesting question for her. So, Gabriela, if you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Oh, I would say I think something that's important for the audience to know, and that I think it would be great if you asked, is what soft skills are important to understand and know, not only to get access to scholarships and work in STEM, but to just be an overall leader. A lot of these students might be aware of all the technical skills that they need and be getting into their STEM degrees and coursework, but to really make change and to be an inspiring leader and to get access to scholarships, you have to know a lot of soft skills. So I can share a little bit about those. I think one of them is empathy, which you touched upon earlier, being able to connect with others and thinking about whether it's in a technology perspective, knowing your user, what are the problems that they're facing and how are you solving for that, or being empathetic about the scholarship committee and what are their needs. And then also the impact you want to make in the world in general. All of that comes back to empathy. Another area is, I'd say, resilience. And many entrepreneurs say this, and I'd say also in the public sector, you have to be comfortable getting a lot of no's and rejection and be comfortable with that and just take it in stride. Stay positive, be optimistic. If everybody faces failure, and if you're not failing, you're actually doing something wrong. That's something I really think the Silicon Valley mindset has taught me and encouraged me to do, is just be really comfortable and push yourself to fail big. And because the stakes, there's just a lot of safety nets out there, especially when early on in your career. Later on, when you have a family and you have other obligations and responsibilities, that's when you have to be more risk averse. But early on, take those risks and be comfortable with rejection and failure because it'll really just help you reach for the stars. So I'd say resilience. I'd also add optimism, which is related to that, and positivity. Some tactical things that I do for that, as I mentioned, journaling, I do affirmations. And another piece I think is relationships, which we talked about in the previous segment as well. Having a network of people who believe in you, because I think believing in yourself is super important. And there's going to be times where you're discouraged, but having people, for example, like you, Maria, you're a big cheerleader of mine and a fan, whether that's your family or and people of different ages and diverse perspectives, is really helpful to have a team of like champions, of cheerleaders who are in your corner, just like in a boxing ring, that are there rooting you on. It can be small, like 2, 3. It's not a quantity thing; it's a quality thing. So those are a couple of the things that I would say are really important for the soft skills for students to hone in on, to believe in themselves and strive for these degrees and scholarships.
Yes, and what I like is that you are so intentional. Like every single piece of your career and your journey is very intentional. You know where you want to go. And that is so important. And actually to pursue opportunities that they're aligned with your mission. It's not about applying for 10,000 scholarships. And I mean, it's good to apply as many as you can, but you have to be intentional and really understand what is your mission, your vision, and kind of like how you're shaping your journey. And it's so important, the support system. And I was wondering, do you have any tips, now that you are very interested in mental health, of how students can actually overcome challenges, and also overcome the no, and say, what, if this is not a good opportunity for me, there is one better that is coming up. So mental health is such a powerful, good mental health tool nowadays. So I was wondering if you have any recommendations. You mentioned that you do meditation,
Mm,
and exercise, and you
yes.
travel. I mean, you have a very nice mix. So I will let you.
Yeah. You're touching on all of the pieces. It's like when I think of well-being, one way to think about it is buckets. By the way, this framework I'm using, I learned in consulting, which is, and in those case prep interviews, is how to organize and structure your thoughts, which is just a tip for everybody out there. So the ideas are more organized. So one way I think about well-being is like mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I think I believe that things start with the physical side. That doesn't mean like you need to run a mile or a marathon. Just like doing simple stretching, simple yoga, moving the body is so important, especially when you're sitting all day in class. So the physical piece, and then within physical, I would also add just getting sunshine on your skin, and being close to nature, whether it's water. Like tons of studies show this, that the physical elements can make such a big difference. Also, so then to the second point, emotional, I would add back to relationships. Again, there's tons of studies that show that the tightness of your network and the closeness and intimacy of your relationships, of how you feel, again, it could just be one or two, is a huge indicator of your happiness and well-being. Yeah. And then on the mental side, it's just, I think, being balanced, which having good time management and getting organized. And to your point, being intentional is how I stay focused, but I also stay sane, is by saying, okay, I'm going to ignore all these other things that are, even though they're really cool and exciting, I need to be focused on just this stuff, or else I'm just going to be overwhelmed. And as my mom says, like a chicken with your head cut off. And I don't want to be a chicken with my head cut off. So those are just some of the things that I do. Yeah, and gratitude. We touched on that earlier in the previous episode. That's also scientifically proven to be like one of the biggest contributors to happiness and good mental well-being. So at night, I always write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And that's something I learned during the pandemic, when I went from like consulting, seeing people and doing group projects every single day, flying every week, to then being at home. I adopted it was called the 20-20-20, but it's like 20 minutes meditation, 20 minutes of like journaling, introspection about, and then asking specific questions like within the journaling about, your goals, and then reflecting on the past, present, what are your intentions for the day, what are you grateful for. And then 20 minutes of exercise. So it's the mind, heart, and body all together. And it's just 1 hour. And of course, anybody can modify that as they wish. But these are the things that I think are really important to be a successful leader, and just do anything you want to accomplish. I think even Kobe Bryant, and tons of influential people have said that to discipline is the way is actually freedom. I think I heard Venus Williams say that the other day. Discipline is freedom. So these are just some of the things that I do, and balance.
And you're being very, very good at not being tied to the FOMO syndrome.
Yeah. It's not always. I have it. I have FOMO. I have imposter syndrome sometimes. It happens.
I believe that you to achieve what you have achieved, discipline, time management, balance. I mean, you nail it all, and I was taking notes because I'm going to implement your advice. But it's so interesting. So tell me about, what are the best resources or books that shape your journey?
Ooh. Okay. Resources. This one. Some people get a little intimidated by this, but I have been to this meditation place called Vipassana. It's completely free, but it's 10 days of silent meditation. They have locations all around the world, but the ones I've been to are in California, my home, one in Joshua Tree, and one in Yosemite. That I think it's really powerful because it's the only time where I feel like I'm really truly with myself. One way of thinking about it is, as maybe people have heard, it's like you come into this world alone and then you die alone. And so to be alone and quiet for those 10 days really helps me, back to your point, know my intentions, know my purpose. What is my calling? What are my goals? What are my dreams? Who am I? Why am I the way I am from my past? Who do I want to be? All of those questions, but it really helps to be quiet, silence, and noise. And honestly, it takes just like 2 or 3 days to just to detox and stop all the chatter. So that's one thing that has helped me, and it's completely free, so it's very accessible. Wow. It's accessible financially, but I understand that time to take 10 days is hard. But there's also resources like Headspace and other meditation apps that are you can access. There's tons of videos on YouTube that people can watch for free. In terms of books or videos, I'm a huge fan of Oprah. She's like my spiritual guru. The way I look at it is that she has interviewed every other spiritual leader in this world, and so whatever she distills and synthesizes is something that I take really seriously. So, for example, when I was studying for the GRE, which is the entrance exam you need to go into grad school, every morning I started with an Oprah video on YouTube, and it was just about like just being calm, knowing your purpose. In undergrad, I used to watch more like intense motivational videos, but I think that I've graduated from those. They can be a bit toxic at times. So being a little bit more kind and empathetic as a source of inspiration to motivate myself. Those are some things. But Oprah and meditation. I love books, but there's some books too. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, but it's all back to spirituality and mindfulness.
Visit IOScholarships, as we have access to thousands of STEM scholarships based on your unique ethnic background, waiting for you today. Some of them only require 2.5 GPA and no essay. Remember, the more you apply, the more chances you have to win. Apply today. Well, it's very interesting because all the resources that you pointed, they're free, and actually they're very powerful. So people don't have to spend a lot of money to really train your mind and soul to be in peace and with purpose. And this is so interesting. Now, is there any app that help you be organized or?
It's funny you say that, because I just came from a yoga class before this, and I was thinking, what app do I want to use? There's so many out there that my friends use. There's one called Todoist, which I think is good because it sends you reminders about what you want to do. There's Asana, which is like a project management tool. I think I'm just old school, old fashioned, paper and pen, and I just write it down, my to-do list, my and then every night journaling. That's also just a piece of advice that, like, at night, write down what are the things I want to accomplish the next day, and what did I do this day, what could I have done, what did I do well, what could I have done better, and then also the bigger life questions, like who do I want to be, what kind of leader do I want to be, what mistakes have I made that I want to leave behind, how can I improve. So I just do that in my paper and pen, old school. So no apps really for me. They just don't stick. I really just don't like being on my phone too much. I think this, Maria. Sometimes you call, and I just don't like being on the phone because there's a bombardment of notifications and things. And
well, coming back to the sense of responsibility, I'm really looking forward to your next venture in terms of how you will help Latinos and other diverse audiences deal with mental health, and I'm very, very proud of you, and I just can't wait to see all the bigger things and all the impact, because it's so important that women like you are positioned as board members or in companies that you really make a difference for our communities. And that's what connected us, that we really wanted to make a difference and actually advance, women in STEM. So I really thank you for this. This cannot be a better way to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. So this concludes our episode. And actually, a free way to support us is to like, share our podcast, and learn more about Gabriela. We have all the information. And remember the power of the 3 I's for innovation, inspiration, and impact. See you next episode. Thank you, Gabriela. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Ciao.